guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Share one more thing. Sunday, I had information from some of our former intel people that there was extremely compelling evidence that could be gleaned from Scytl, that's SCYTL.
Election meddling software, emails, etc. from the RNC and DNC servers.
That's a company headquartered in Barcelona, Spain, that was responsible for aggregating all the information from all the machines and whatnot. But now the main headquarters had moved to Frankfurt.
Crossfire Hurricane? More like Hurricane Electric, being one of the server networks in Germany, inside the European Union, used for this elaborate scheme.
What Millie had shown in her documentary with Patrick and Tori was really a first-class body of evidence that the President of the United States should assign a special team of prosecutors, a special inspector general to investigate and prosecute, because this really is the weak point where the whole house of cards of the deep state and Brennan and Obama and Holder and all of these people could come tumbling down over.
Request to get any of that information. It turns out I don't know the truth. I know that there was a German tweet in German saying that on Monday, U.S. Army forces went into Scytl and grabbed their server. There are some that believe this is the U.S. intelligence that manipulated all this in order to cover their own rear ends.
We can see that Tori Mahoney, a different Tori, is the special assistant to the CEO who plans, manages, and executes the CEO's schedule and provides research and planning support to special projects and strategic initiatives. In addition to her political fundraising experience, Tori was a field director for Senator Portman's record-breaking 2016 election campaign. Wow, what a coincidence! Portman just so happens to be the senator for my district. What's this? She also happens to be the scheduler for the House of Representatives during the same period Dynology had the government contract for the Congressional Knowledge Management System. These official documents suggest the Congressional Knowledge Management System, outsourced to a private contractor, is hosted, managed, and stored in servers in Germany. What is NISPOM and how does it relate to ClearForce?
NISPOM is kind of like the OSHA of companies with clearances, right? So if you have an employee who has a government clearance like secret, top secret, NISPOM regulates what's involved with that to try to maintain security with it. After 2013 Snowden, Dynology decided, hey, let's build the ClearForce app, and they started working on the ClearForce application to create predictive behavioral models so that they could scrape social media like Intrepid does and such, social media scraping, collect all the information on people, then they tie that in with their financials, their medical, all of these things. They create these predictive behavioral models for them.
In a very predictive way, the 1950s sci-fi story by Philip K. Dick, The Minority Report, has come to life in our time. Police departments have already been using it. In what are called heatless, predictive programs designed to use risk assessment in predetermining whether or not a crime is going to occur and/or who is likely to commit it, like the dystopian artificial intelligence law enforcement referred to in ShadowGate 1. The scary thing here is that they've done overviews and studies of the system, and they've found that Oftentimes, there are people that get flagged as high risk when they themselves have never even had a criminal record.
Police in Santa Cruz, California are getting closer to the sci-fi future using this algorithm, a complicated math equation similar to the one that predicts earthquake aftershocks, to predict crime.
If you can imagine the Atlantic Council working with Facebook to put you in Facebook jail, then it's not a stretch to imagine that ClearForce could work with the police to put you in real jail.
General Jones was tapped as the chairman of the board of Atlantic Council to replace John Huntsman. One of the first orders of business that he did with the Atlantic Council was to create a partnership with Facebook. Facebook partners with General Jones at the Atlantic Council to restore election integrity worldwide, right? So the best out of 7 billion people on the planet, Mark Zuckerberg picks the owner of the ShadowNet.
Whistleblower was actually a wiretap, hence supersonic hearing capabilities. Eric Ciaramella was a decoy to hide the fact that the president was being wiretapped through a 702 data over-collection problem connected to the Sunset Clause, collection problem that the NSA Inspector General Robert Storch oversaw. None of this was ever supposed to be found out, but Trump won, now with an administration in a position to piece this whole thing together. Which is why President Trump allowed the Sunset Clause of the Patriot Act, which legalized and enabled the FISA 702 collection of everyone's data, to expire on March 15th, 2020. But not before he declared a state of emergency on March 13th, 2020, where his people had access for 72 hours to all the data, including the communications of those who were plotting a coup against him. Oops. The military-industrial complex, which has been running both Republican and Democrat Party campaigns, used hacks as cover for removing and replacing memorandums of understanding, backdoor deals, blackmail, election meddling software, emails, etc. from the RNC and DNC servers. This all came to a head in 2016 when an unexpected mirroring of the DNC server created a situation where domestic meddling in elections could be found out. So non-attribution and misattribution had to be used to make it look like the Russians not only hacked the DNC and RNC servers, but leaked that information to WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign to falsely claim Trump was colluding with the Russians to win the 2016 election. But when the Trump campaign turned down the honeypot trap offer from Cambridge Analytica for social media influence operations, which was a setup to make it look like the social media data used by Cambridge Analytica came from the Russians, the shadow government's plot to create a scenario for impeachment of President Trump failed. So when President Trump spoke with the newly elected president of Ukraine, all hell broke loose. The Atlantic Council, Spirit of America, Joe Biden, the Inspector General of the NSA, people at the State Department, USAID, Jones Group International, a handful of retired generals, and their affiliated companies were in serious trouble. So the second attempt to impeach the president was kicked off. But it failed too. Though culpable, the FBI is low-hanging fruit, and James Comey is a fall guy. If we continue down this cover story narrative, then no one will ever be held accountable.
We are here again today as part of the chairman's examination of Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI's Russia investigation.
Crossfire Hurricane? more like Hurricane Electric being one of the server networks in Germany, inside the European Union, used for this elaborate scheme.
What